true. And so TerrenceM takes the lead. Freeze Mage and Warrior left for him, but we'll see if Shoop can manage to find a win with these matchups. Hunter's going to have a pretty good matchup against Freeze Mage. The Cthulhu Druid actually, surprisingly, has a decent matchup against Freeze Mage too, because he just played big threat after big threat. And can suffer from, the old case of Ramp Druid. Well, how do you deal with Frostnova Doomsayer, things like that. But if you get an early enough Cthulhu, if you put on early enough pressure, it can be good.
Yep. I think the major thing that Shoop actually really needs here is I think he needs his Warlock to line up against Terrence's Warrior.
Yeah.
It's against Freeze Mage. He goes to the big burst damage. Terrence has an ice block down. It's going to be really hard to finish that one. Now, there's no anti-heal bots anymore, so Freeze Mage sometimes have a tough time healing up afterwards. But I think you're trying to get that Warlock versus Warrior matchup, and if that means playing the other two decks and hoping that they beat both of Terrence's, I think that's fine. I just think he really, really needs to get the Warlock versus Warrior.
All right, well, Druid versus Freeze Mage here. This is the matchup I was talking about, and this one's a little bit interesting. Because as I said, classically, these slower Druids, well, I guess every Druid nowadays is sort of slow. Token Druid is pretty fast, but nobody can Force Nature Savager anymore, is what I'm saying. That's basically what it boils down to. You feel like you're susceptible, but there are a lot of pretty big threats in this deck that, if not answered, can put a lot of pressure on the Freeze Mage. And Cthulhu is just almost impossible to remove without Doomsayer plus Freeze Effect. So it's interesting, but I think it's very close as far as matchup goes.
Wild Growth is certainly Shoop's best draw in the deck right now. Terrence having to make a decision here. Do I take the extra damage here? Do I just hero power? Do I coin the hero power? Mm-hmm. I think coin Loot Hoarder is pretty much the only play that's off the table from this perspective, and Terrence may just be thinking about his next couple of turns as well.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That
Nelly
is a huge draw. I never thought I'd say that a centaur frolicking through a field of daisies with a rainbow behind it would be a huge draw, but it definitely is right here.
Should start casting this game with not card names, but just explaining the art on the card as the card name.
He's going to go with ethereal energy bubble undead thing.
Happy little tree takes out creepy little gnome.
With a chest full of gold. Someone's lucky today.
TerrenceM better not play a weapon, because dude with a hat is going to take that right back to his creepy little museum.
Some odd blue design above the head, adding extra cards to hand. And Lightning Storm Panda.
Raiden Panda.
Raiden's got eternal life. Protector of the Realm of Earth. Harrison Jones, just a solid threat. I mean, anything to keep pressure. Like you said, the Druid's just going to crank out threat after threat after threat. If Terrence can't land a big Frostnova Doomsayer, if he can't handle everything very effectively, the damage really starts to pile up and makes his later turns have to be spent continuing to stay alive rather than getting that big burst damage onto Shoop's life total. So if Shoop can keep him on the defensive, that's exactly where his win condition's going to come from.
Yeah. And Terrence has a lot to work with here. Getting some pretty good cycle early on. He's got the freeze effects. He is missing the Doomsayer, though, but now we're getting to these turns, which are pretty hard. He's at 22, facing down a scary board. Shoop ramped up in this early game, and he does not have much mana to work with. Like, do you Novice Engineer and try and find that Doomsayer and expend a Frost Nova this turn with the coin?
Well, living is clearly a problem right now. So
yeah.
Each Frost Nova is buying him 10 extra points of health. And wants to get the Ice Block down. Says that the first points aren't too relevant, but is even going to Ice Lance here. So it says that it is that relevant, after all. And Shoop, there's no shortage of goodness in his hand. Now, granted, it's just more minions, but when your opponent's not doing anything and all you have is more minions, this is good.
Yeah. That's why Elder picked up an interesting choice to go with the Azure Drake over the Dark Arrow Koa. I think this is sort of a nod to Frost Nova Doomsayer. He's saying, well, I don't want to expend too many threats. I want to have reload if that's the case. So I'm going to play a minion here that's a little bit easier to expend. You know, it's got a battle cry with that where I draw a card, and Dark Oracle will be a little bit better of a reload.
Yep, does pick up that Doomsayer as well. So this is looking tough for Shoop. I mean, this may be a spot where Shoop decides to not really play that much more and hope to follow up on the AoE and really put the test to Terrence.
I mean, if his board doesn't get frozen, like he can pop the block from hand, but he is going to opt to play the Dark Arakoa, force out a freeze plus Doomsayer this turn if Terrence were to have it, because that board is way too threatening to leave up.
Yeah, but really any freeze this forces out. Anything that Terrence can do to stop the incoming damage is what would end up happening here. I like Blizzard too. I mean, Frost Nova Doomsayer is a hefty one that you can use kind of in a pinch when you need a little bit more mana. And this kind of, to Shoop, says, I have Flame Strike. And so Shoop's going to have to be careful on this board. I mean, this may get the Cthulhu's Chosen out here too.
Yeah. But still just pacing himself, not overloading the board, just playing one threat at a time, forcing those answers out from Terrence.
He's got them all.
He does.
This may be the Frost Nova Doomsayer here.
I mean, even Blizzard takes out a lot. Like, Blizzard takes out the whole board except for, well, he'd have to ping the Cthulhu's Chosen, but, I mean, this is essentially the whole board.
Yeah, so no Blizzards left. One Frost Nova is the last freeze effect for Terrence. I mean, maybe looking for Emperor Frost Nova. Even considering still playing the Doomsayer, it looks like. I mean, if you were going to play the Doomsayer, certainly you would Frost Nova.
Yeah.
Maybe considering a ping here.
There's a Doomsayer.
Wow, I'm pretty surprised by this. I mean, maybe at this point thinking to himself, well, I have the utility of Frost Nova later on, and that's the more important part, is just the mana efficiency of it.
Yeah. I mean, this is not going to get punished, even though it's not going to take out much. Just the injured Dark Arakoa plus this Cthulhu's Chosen. But buys him a free turn. And I think also just thinking in his head, I want a turn to be able to play this Emperor Thorsen onto the board, onto this empty board, might also be something. Because look at all this damage that he has in his hand. Maybe Acolyte of Pain plus Ping could be an option as well, but
I like the Emperor here.
Emperor, yeah, is just such a big threat.
Maybe even add the Blood Mage to it, just to get some more card draw going. That's exactly what he's going to do. Emperor is a major threat to Shoop right now. You know, normally this turn, if he didn't play the Emperor, this would just be Twin Emperors and go. Oh, baby. That guy can get bigger. He's just going to go with Cthulhu right now. Clears out that Emperor, and there's a 13-13 here. How on earth is Terrence going to deal with this?
Well, he can dig. He does have a lot of damage in his hand, and he does have Frost Nova still. So this is where the mana efficiency comes in. We're using that Blizzard instead of the Frost Nova might allow more things to happen for Terrence. And Doomsayer picked up.
That's not going to end up dealing with it, though. If he goes with Frost Nova Doomsayer here, Shoop has the return kill with Druid of the Claw, Disciple of Cthulhu, and a hero power. And that may be just the way that Terrence thinks he can kill us, but it is going to be Frostbolt just to delay, set the ice barrier, and buy more time. I like this play from Terrence because putting too much investment into that Cthulhu is going to mean if it gets checked that you are just donezo.
Yeah.
So rather than try to deal with it right now, just try to buy as much time as you can and see if you can get to a better spot.
Yeah. So Shoop here probably going to end up playing the Twin Emperors. The Druid of the Claw has too much flexibility at the moment. Where shall I strike?
I'm just going to start applying the damage here. Yeah, this may cost him a little bit.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. He could have played like Disciple of Cthulhu to deny a draw and played Twin Imps.
Yeah,
maybe he wants the extra
better.
armor from the hero power. Maybe he thinks that's going to be crucial.
Well, now there's Alex Straza, and there's an ice block down. And there's a fireball.
I mean, even with just Alex Straza, he could fit in enough.
doesn't quite have the mana to do this. I mean, if he decides to go with Alex Strauss, the Ice Block's getting popped. And then if he Frost Novas, he's just dead to hero power unless he decides to Frostbolt face, in which case Living Roots, Swipe, Disciple of Cthulhu, those cards will all kill him. I think he's got to go for Frost Nova Doomsayer and hope it succeeds. And given what Shoop just did, it's almost certainly going to. I mean, Shoop needs to draw damage right here to kill this.
This is why I didn't necessarily agree with the Druid of the Claw that last turn. I mean, he would have been sort of the same spot with Twin Emperors. Terrence would have been a little bit higher health, but he would have had an answer to that second Doomsayer had he kept that in his hand. He could have Druid of the Claw, charged his Disciple of Cthulhu, hero powered down the Doomsayer to preserve his board. Now what does he do? Now he has to try and dig for an answer. Wrath.
Only 6.
Yeah. Still needs to find like a Swipe or a second Druid of the Claw.
Second Wrath would do it as well. Living Roots would work. He has quite a few draws that work here. Druid of the Claw, that'll do it.
Yeah, you can Druid of the Claw Wrath. He needed 2 things that turn to be able to deal with this, but not going to be punished. And now with a threatening board once again.
Flame Strike does not kill Cthulhu.
Yeah, and even though you can Flame Strike and isolate Cthulhu, even if your block is popped at 8, Cthulhu's still scary because you need that second block.
Observe and reflect.
Well, it'd be popped at 11. So if he Flame Strikes here, it gets the block popped at 11, drops Alex Straza on opponent, Frostbolts the Cthulhu. He still needs more damage after that. I don't know if this is possible.
Does the armor get hit off if the block gets popped?
I think it does. I don't think it doesn't. I think it prevents the damage. Like if you would take lethal, I think it just prevents the damage.
Okay.
And if he had one more life, from his perspective, he might be able to go Alex Straza, Frostbolt the Cthulhu, but he's going to Alex Straza, and I think that this means that Terrence is hoping to just draw another ice block.
That is bold.
Well, he has to just. I mean, he doesn't have that many cards left in his deck either, so the chance to draw it is not unrealistic here.
Yeah. And Shoop can pop at 1 here and deal with Alex Straza.
And that's a bad sentence for Terrence.
Yeah. He's going to go up to 18 health, which means that, well, Ice Lance also be enough. 12, 15, yeah. Ice Lance would also be enough.
Yeah, for the damage-wise.
Who needs Ice Lance or Ice Block?
How about Forgotten Torch?
Not
So
quite.
Terrence, from his perspective, still stays alive here. Flame Strike, Frostbolt face, and then Shoop has to have damage. So that's probably where this is headed. He can't draw any cards. I mean, there's not really any other plays he can make.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it. And then Shoop's going to tie this series up at 2 games apiece. 2 more wins each to win this best of 7.
Yep. All right. Well, very well played. Terrence did give himself a few outs in that situation, and I think that was the right choice at the end of the day, going with the Alex Straza. But not enough at the end of the day, and this is sort of why I said this Cthulhu Druid, it pressures, and it pressures hard, especially if you get that early ramp. Shoop could have tied up, and now Shoop has Hunter in that Reno Warlock remaining. Hunter matches up nicely against the Freeze Mage, but that Reno Lock might struggle a bit. You talked about a few things earlier. The Reno Lock versus Freeze Mage match used to be like sort of a dance, where the Freeze Mage would try and put on enough pressure to force the Warlock to use some of those big keels prior to using Reno Jackson, like anti-keel bot. But now that anti-keel bot's gone, once Reno's done, that's when you go for it. So you just have to make sure you hold off on enough burn until Reno's played. Usually that happens after Alex Straza, but it's a lot more in the Mage's favor nowadays than it was, say, prior to Standard and prior to Whispers of the Old Gods. So a couple matchup that Terrence is going to want to avoid. Shoop wants to see his Hunter against the Mage, and he wants to see his Warlock against the Warrior.